Every night at 3:17 a.m., the lights in Sarah's apartment flickered once. It was a fleeting pulse, like the building itself exhaled, and then all was still. She'd grown used to it over her 6 months in the aging brownstone, chalking it up to faulty wiring or the quirks of a century-old structure. Nothing else ever happened, until the night they flickered twice. Sarah jolted awake, heart pounding, the second flicker searing into her mind like a warning. She lay frozen, staring at the ceiling, waiting for something more. But the silence was heavier than usual, pressing against her chest. When dawn finally crept through her curtains, she found a note slipped under her door. In neat, unfamiliar handwriting, it read, "Do not ignore the next flicker." Her first instinct was to dismiss it as a prank, but the timing gnawed at her. Who could have known about the double flicker? She hadn't told anyone. The note felt alive, its words coiling tighter around her thoughts with every reread. Curiosity battled fear, and by noon, Sarah was scouring the internet for anything about her building. The brownstone on 47th Street was unremarkable by city standards, 5 stories, 10 units, built in 1912. Old articles mentioned a fire in the 40s, a renovation in the 70s, but nothing unusual. The landlord, a faceless property company, ignored her calls. Frustrated, Sarah knocked on her neighbors' doors. Most were curt, claiming they'd never noticed the flickering. Mrs. Callahan in 4B, a tenant for 30 years, hesitated before muttering, "Some things are better off not asking about." That night, Sarah stayed awake, phone in hand, counting down to 3:17 a.m. The first flicker came, sharp and expected. She held her breath, but the second never followed. Relief mixed with unease. She wasn't sure what she'd expected, but the note's warning lingered like a bad dream. The next day, she visited the city archives, digging through records for anything on the building. Blueprints showed 5 floors as EXP. As expected, but a yellowed maintenance log from 1953 referenced a sublevel access that wasn't on any map. Sarah's pulse quickened. A hidden floor? She cross-checked tenant records and found gaps, names listed in old directories that never appeared in official leases. Dozens of people, spanning decades, seemed to vanish from the building's history. Back home, she scoured her apartment for clues. In the basement, behind a rusted boiler, she found a seam in the wall, barely visible. With a crowbar from the super's closet, she pried it open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Her flashlight trembled as it illuminated a door at the bottom, its wood warped and stained, marked with a faint symbol, a circle with a slash through it. The hidden floor was a maze of cramped rooms, air thick with dust and something metallic. In one, she found a ledger, its pages brittle, listing names and dates. Beside each was a notation: Flicker 1, Flicker 2, Flicker 3. The final entries, from 2003, included a name she recognized, a missing woman from a news article she'd found earlier. The last column read, "Taken." Sarah's breath caught as she realized the pattern. The flickering wasn't random, it was a signal, a countdown. 1 flicker to mark you, 2 to warn you, 3 to what? She flipped to the last page and froze. Her own name was written there, followed by Flicker 2 and yesterday's date. Panic surged, but she forced herself to keep searching. In a corner, she found a photograph, faded and creased, a group of tenants from decades ago, standing in the lobby, their faces solemn. Behind them, the same circle and slash symbol was etched into the wall, barely noticeable. She hadn't seen it in the lobby before, but when she checked later, it was there, faint under layers of paint. That night, Sarah didn't sleep. She sat with every light on, watching the clock. At 3:17 a.m., the first flicker came. Her heart stopped. Then the second. She gripped her phone, ready to run, but the third flicker didn't come. Instead, a low hum filled the apartment, and the air grew heavy, like something was watching. The next morning, another note appeared. "You found it. Now leave, or the third flicker takes you." Sarah packed a bag, but as she reached the door, the lights flickered again once, twice, 3 times. The hum became a roar, and the symbol on the wall glowed faintly. She grabbed the knob, but it wouldn't turn. The last thing she saw was her reflection in the window, the circle/symbol burning behind her eyes. The building's lights still flicker at 3:17 a.m. The new tenant in Sarah's apartment notices it, but thinks little of it. Last night, they flickered twice. The new tenant, Ethan, was a grad student, practical and skeptical, who'd moved into the apartment on 47th Street for its cheap rent and proximity to campus. The first flicker at 3:17 a.m. barely registered. He assumed it was a power surge, common in old buildings. He'd seen the same in his last place. But when the lights flickered twice the previous night, a faint unease settled in his gut. He brushed it off, blaming late-night study sessions and too much coffee. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that the apartment felt occupied. That morning, Ethan found a crumpled piece of paper wedged under the radiator while cleaning. It was yellowed, edges frayed, with a single sentence in tight, hurried script. The third flicker is not a warning, it's a claim. No signature, no date. He frowned, turning it over, but found nothing else. The words felt heavy, like they carried a history he didn't understand. He tucked the note into his pocket, telling himself it was just trash left by the previous tenant, Sarah. He'd heard her name from Mrs. Callahan in 4B, who'd muttered something about that poor girl disappearing a month ago. The landlord claimed she'd moved out, but her mail still piled up in the lobby, unclaimed. Ethan wasn't one for ghost stories, but the coincidence of the note and the flickering lights sparked a nagging curiosity. He started asking around. The other tenants were cagey, avoiding his questions or changing the subject. The super, a gruff man named Carl, laughed off Ethan's mention of the flickering. Old wiring, he said, but his eyes darted to the side, and he left quickly. Mrs. Callahan was the only one who lingered, her voice low. "You found something, didn't you?" she whispered. "Don't go looking. It's been quiet since she left. Let it stay that way." Ethan couldn't let it go. That afternoon, he searched the apartment more thoroughly. Under the floorboards in the closet, he found a small metal box, rusted shut. Inside was a key, heavy and ornate, with the same circle/symbol etched into its bow. It didn't fit any lock in the apartment. His mind flashed to Sarah, to the note, to the flickering. He remembered Mrs. Callahan's warning, but also her fear, and the way she'd glanced at the basement door when she spoke. Late that evening, Ethan crept down to the basement, the key cold in his hand. The air was damp, the single bulb casting long shadows. He found the seam in the wall Sarah had discovered, now sealed with fresh concrete. He tapped it, and it sounded hollow. Heart pounding, he chipped away with a hammer from Carl's toolbox until the concrete gave way, revealing the same narrow staircase descending into darkness. The hidden floor was colder than he'd expected, the air thick with that same metallic tang Sarah had noticed. His flashlight caught glimpses of the maze-like rooms, walls scrawled with a circle/symbol, some fresh, others faded to near invisibility. In one room, he found a pile of personal effects, a locket, a cracked phone, a wallet with Sarah's ID. His stomach churned. These weren't abandoned items. They were relics. At the far end of the corridor, the key fit a heavy door, its lock clicking with a sound that echoed like a heartbeat. Inside was a circular chamber, walls lined with mirrors. In the center, a single bulb hung, unlit. The floor was etched with a symbol, larger than the others, its lines deep and blackened, as if burned. Ethan's reflection stared back from every angle, but something was wrong. His shadow didn't move when he did. He backed toward the door, but it slammed shut. The bulb flickered once, casting his warped reflection across the mirrors. His phone died, the flashlight failing. The second flicker came, and the air grew heavy, the hum from Sarah's final night filling the room. Ethan clutched the key, his only anchor, as the third flicker hit. The mirrors pulsed with light, and in them, he saw figures, not his reflection, but others. Sarah, eyes wide with terror. A man in a 70s suit, clutching a ledger. A woman in a faded dress, her face half gone. All marked with the circle/, glowing on their skin. The hum became words, low and guttural. Claimed. Ethan's vision blurred, the symbol burning into his mind. He stumbled, dropping the key, and the door swung open. He ran, heart hammering, up the stairs, through the basement, and into the lobby. The building was silent, the symbol on the lobby wall pulsing faintly. He didn't stop until he was outside, gasping in the cold night air. The next morning, Ethan moved out, leaving everything behind. He told no one, not even Mrs. Callahan, who watched him go with a knowing nod. The apartment stayed empty for weeks, until a new tenant arrived, a young woman, drawn by the low rent. Last night, her lights flickered once. But in the hidden floor, the mirrors still glowed, and Sarah's name in the ledger was joined by Ethan's, marked with Flicker 3. The bulb in the chamber flickered again, and something in the shadows smiled.